Hey, No Name Nation and Victory Life Church Ministry members. This is Tony coming to you with my thoughts. Hopefully, you guys been enjoying them. Hit the like and subscribe button. I try to do these in one take with very little editing, so I apologize if there's errors and things along the way. But try to just keep the thoughts flowing as much as possible. Try to keep it short as well. Right now, kind of what's been coming to my mind is really God's provision, and that's one of the things I've been hearing a lot of people talk about as we head into the Thanksgiving season is really about God's provision and what He does. Um, and I know the word means to provide, but I had to look it up a little bit more just to kind of get a little bit of a better definition. And here's what I found: it says it refers to the act of supplying or making something available that is needed or required. The term can be applied in various contexts, including materials, emotional, spiritual, or practical needs. um, I took this from somewhere that there's a couple of examples that were listed there. I didn't keep the examples, but really, as I was kind of thinking about this and I was looking at it, one of the scriptures that really come to mind is a story in Exodus chapter 15. And really, what caught me is a lot of times we'll talk about God's provision, and a lot of times we want God to provide right there in our need, and we're excited and thankful and blessed when it happens. And getting around Thanksgiving, a lot of us are going to be thanking God for what He's provided for us. But really, in a line with really understanding how much God yearns for us, cares for us, and tying in with some of the things that have been going in my mind is really taking it back and just thinking about how He's provided. Right? A lot of times we look at the what, but we forget the how He did it, and sometimes we look at the short term of it. And I want to read a couple of scriptures from Exodus 15, which I recommend. Again, like always, read the whole chapter. But I want to take a different twist from it. There's a lot of different things that you'll find that other ministers have gone into on this. But in Exodus 15, verses 22 to 24, they've crossed over the Red Sea. They're coming there. They've seen God's miracles, but now they're thirsty and there's some water. As many of you may have heard this story, and so I'm going to read it and I'll give you some thoughts on it. Exodus 15, 22 through 24. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea. Then they went out into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. Now, when they came to Marah, they could not drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore, the name of it was called Marah. And the people complained against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" So he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree. And when he cast it into the waters were made sweet. And many preachers have preached on this. You probably read books on this. There's a lot of stories. A lot of times people will tie in how the tree represents the cross and it makes the bitterness of life sweet. Many people will talk about how this was the provision of God, even though He was testing them. The waters were there, they were bitter, but He made it clean. But something that really came to my mind was the tree. And as I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, sometimes we see the miracle or the things that God provides, but we don't always think about the long term how. And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, that tree, there's two things that could have happened. Either that tree just appeared, which is a miracle in itself, or what I think is the tree was always there. And if the tree was always there, and God, who's all knowing, uh, is all knowing, He planted that tree there. He made sure whatever it took to have that tree there for this very one moment. And I don't know how long. Typically, it takes years for a tree, and the Bible doesn't tell us how big the tree is or what. But somehow the Lord allowed this seed to land there. And I don't know if there was someone around that was watering it or if God had been watering it, but God took care of it through seasons in and out, made sure it continued to grow, made sure that nothing came and destroyed it, that no one came and tore it down and used it for firewood, that no one did all these things for this one moment, that when His nation that He brought out of Egypt would be questioning Him. And it really made me think of how much He loves and cares for us, how many times in our life that we've been blessed or we've seen His provision and He's provided. And a lot of times in the moment, we can't see it in front of us. We don't see how God could make a way. And yet we'll sing that song, God will make a way when there seems to be no way. And we don't see it. And yet God's always thinking far ahead because he knows more than we do. And he put this tree there out of love, mercy, and grace. Like he knew his people were going to be walking there. He knew they were going to be thirsty. He knew those waters were going to be bitter, and he knew this was the solution. And he had it all there set up so that when they went there, and he knew that they were going to be complaining. It wasn't like they were going to come and be thankful. They had just been set free. They were complaining. They even compared back to Egypt where they had water. And yet he planted it there out of love, mercy, and grace. And it's almost like when you take a step back and you look at the characteristics of God and you come to the understanding of how much he loves you and cares for you, you start thinking that this is someone who cares for humanity, for us so much that he planned this out. This was not a random act of love. This was not a something that just happened and he reacted. This was something that was planned to show his love, his mercy, and his grace to his people. And how many times do we stop and sit down about that? A lot of times we'll do that at the end of our life, but how many times do we do it during our life and really just take into account? There's this author that I found, and his name's Alexander McLaren, and he wrote his preachings were made into a book, and he wrote this about that what happened there at Mara, and he said the tree was there all the while, though Moses did not see it until God showed it to him. God's supplies are near at hand, waiting for the eyes of faith to discern them. And it really hit me because a lot of times when we take a step back and we look at our life, we come to realize that God has always been there. And a lot of times we're thankful for the quick result, right? The people were thankful. They were really thankful that God had provided the water there. But I think they missed the bigger picture, and hence why it took them a lot longer to learn. And it's something that we learn, is that God had always provided. That was an accident. That God wasn't even reacting to their request. He already had it there. And that's something that it takes us a complete understanding of knowing God's love and goodness so that we can truly understand what it means when we say God's provision or God provides. It's not that God provides because we ask, but God provides because we need. It's not because God provides because he has to. God provides because he wants to. And he's thinking so far ahead of us, and when you take a step back and you look at that the Alpha Omega, the creator of all things, takes that moment to think about your and my needs and has a plan set out. And when we can't see it, that's why when we talked about the last time that he makes all things good. He makes all things good to those who love and have faith in him. When you love and have faith in him, you know that even in the worst circumstances, he has it there. And hopefully, as you're taking your time and your moments with God, just thank him for the things he's done. And you may not see it in front of you. And maybe as I'm saying this, there's circumstances in your life you're looking back at and you're saying, man, God really was there. And I didn't notice that had been there that whole time. I reacted to the outcome, but I didn't react to the how it was getting there. And just take that moment, and as you see, you'll start understanding that throughout your life, going forward, God's supplies are there. He knows what's coming. You may not, and you may want to. Trust me, I fall into that. I want to know all the time what's coming next, and God prepare me for it and do this. But sometimes it's just about that. But that's not faith. Faith is trusting him and saying, Lord, whatever comes next, I know you're going to provide, and it's already there, and it's going to be there. And when you start getting to that, then that's when you can get into submitting to him. But really understanding God's provision is that to understand that God, again, doesn't just react to our ask. He doesn't just react because we're in that circumstances. He's already known and he's already provided. And so when you take that moment to meditate in your Thanksgiving or whatever you may do, just thank him for actually not providing as a reaction, but providing out of love, a thoughtful, planned out love of action that he's provided for you. Hopefully that makes you understand God's love a little bit more. Hopefully you see it in your life. And hopefully this will just kind of put you in that place of thankfulness. And then again, if I don't record something before tomorrow, I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And again, enjoy your family, enjoy your time, but also enjoy thanking God, thanking him for everything, not just one day, but all our days. And thank that he provides for us. Hit the like and subscribe button. Hopefully you guys keep enjoying this, keep passing it along, keep putting in comments if you have suggestions of topics to touch on. I'm happy to touch on it. We'll be bringing the larger podcast together. But again, we just want to thank you and God bless.